Hello and welcome to my Macbeth Revision Series. And in this series, I'll be guiding you through the essential key points in Macbeth and doing a series of videos, lessons on the different characters and the important themes. So today we're going to look at the character of Macbeth and how he's introduced to the audience and our first impressions of him. This is Macbeth, our tragic hero. He's presented right at the offset as being this dominant figure. He's labeled as being brave Macbeth with the adjective brave. And it then says, well, he deserves that name. What's interesting about that quote is that, first of all, Macbeth is presented as having everything around him as weakness. But then he's introduced and he's thrown in to the play as someone who's brave. So we've got this weakness contrasted with brave. So we get this impression of someone who's a warrior, someone who stands out from amongst the crowd. Then it says, well, he deserves that name. So right from the offset, Macbeth seals his reputation amongst others as being this brave figure in a society where men are seen as weak. We know that Macbeth is a noble soldier fighting for Scotland. And when we look at this term bravery, I think it's very important to establish that the first description of him is that he's brave. So we're going to venture into what is it about Macbeth that makes him brave? What characteristics, attributes does he have in order to fulfill this reputation as someone who deserves that name? We then look into it further. It says, disdaining fortune with his brandished steel, which smoked with bloody execution. So we see that Macbeth is someone who makes his own fortune. He's not influenced in the beginning as much by fate. It's as though he makes his own fate. He makes his own destiny. How does he do this? He does it with his brandished steel. So with his sword. His sword is a symbol of power, of masculine strength and masculine dominance. And then it says, which smoked with bloody execution. So Macbeth takes apart his enemies and he executes them with his sword. So he's someone who is brave, invincible on the battlefield. He takes no prisoners, and the fact that he mentions bloody, this is a recurring motif which constantly appears in the play, this idea of blood. And Macbeth is at the centerpiece. He's the focal point of this idea of blood, and he controls whose blood will be spilled. We then see he's described through the simile like valor's minion. So valor is like bravery, noble strength, and he's a minion to this. So he's a servant of valor. He's a servant of bravery. Then it says he carved out his passage. So again, this idea of Macbeth making his own destiny, weaving, forming his own destiny. When we look at the verb carve, he carved out his passage. How does he do this? He does this with his sword. So he relies on his strength, his bravery in order to gain this reputation, in order to build this sense of a masculine dominant figure. As we go further on, it gives us a bit more detail about how he takes apart his enemies. And it says here, till he unseamed him from the knave to the chaps. So he meets the enemy, he meets the traitors, and he literally takes them apart. He cuts their body part and separates their body parts. And it says from the knave to the chap, so removing the lower body with his sword. So he doesn't just go for the kill, he literally tears his opponents apart. So we've got this sense of animalistic imagery. Then it says, he fixed his head upon our battlements. So then he takes his enemy or his enemy's head, he places it on his sword and he holds it up as though it's a trophy. So Macbeth takes great pride in destroying his opponents. And through this, we see that, again, Macbeth is someone who's invincible. He's described as this hero. But the twist here is Shakespeare is building us up for a great fall. He's building up Macbeth as this great tragic hero who is destined, who will overcome challenges, but eventually he will fall. So he fulfills this characteristic of a tragic hero. And a tragic hero often has a flaw. So then we question, if he's really powerful on the battlefield, what is his flaw? Maybe it could be to do with his ideas, his thinking, his desire for other things. Because in terms of bravery and destroying his opponents, he fills that masculine criteria, but he's lacking something because he is the tragic hero in this play. And then we're introduced to King Duncan. And as I was mentioning just a moment ago about tragic heroes and characters having flaws. So when we think of a flaw, it's a vice, it's a trait within a person that ultimately leads to their downfall. And if you look at what King Duncan says, he refers to Macbeth as this valiant cousin. Valiant, again, really praiseworthy of Macbeth. He really respects him. It's as though he's astonished by what he's achieved. If you look at the exclamation mark, the tone in which Duncan is saying this, he's immensely proud of Macbeth. And then he says he's a worthy gentleman. So again, Macbeth seals his reputation in the beginning as being this noble, heroic figure. And what's interesting is that Shakespeare's introduced us to Macbeth through other people, but we haven't actually met Macbeth yet. And this is straight away forming an image of Macbeth as this great, noble hero who has no flaws, who's invincible. But we begin to question him and how he will develop upon this reputation that he has sealed in the opening. So in my next videos, I'll be going through more detailed character analysis of Macbeth, Lady Macbeth. So make sure you like, subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the messages. And it's also important to consider that how does this reputation that Macbeth has formed, how will that change later on in the play? So how will this invincibility pan out for Macbeth? So that's a question for us to consider when we look at the upcoming videos. I hope you benefited from the video, and share your comments in the chat. And if there's any questions that you have, let me know. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.